How does aging affect champagne?
That's a really good question, actually, because most people think that champagne is young wine for early consumption. But for me, champagne is one of those wines that can age the longest. Imagine that you go to a lumberyard and you buy wood and you make a wooden box. So the wood is quite rough on the edges. Over time, the edges will get smoother, rounder, and more complete in a way. So that is what's happening because the wine has high acidity in its youth. It has, quite sharp but distinct categories and qualities. So over time, it melts together to give complexity, length, on all those things. So it goes from youthful primary aromas linked with fruits like lemons, apple, tropical fruits, stone fruits, and those kind of things. Then we have the secondary aroma spectra, which is what is happening during the process of making the wine. For instance, that toasty note, it doesn't come from the primary notes. The toasty notes come from the actual time when the lees are in contact with the wine. So the longer we have, the more of that toasty note will develop. And then we have also, different treatments of wood. If we have old barrels that we use to let the wine breathe, or do we have stainless steel to keep a very fresh and pure wine? That's one thing. And then we come to the tertiary aromas, what will happen during extreme aging. The acidity goes down, we have different notes of mushrooms and fungus and truffles, and even, like spicy notes that you might link with new wood, but it isn't because it comes from that extreme aging, and also like animal notes, like that beautiful note that you have, for instance, in cured ham. So those kind of characters.
What is the perfect condition to age champagne?
I would say you have the same conditions as with any fine wine. So a dark place, a humid place to have the corks in perfect condition, the bottles lying down so the cork doesn't dry out. No sunlight, of course, because the sunlight will also force the development to go very, very fast. So classical cellar, I would say.
So does the size of the bottle change the aging process?
Absolutely. Most people think that, it's just an image to, play with the big bottles. But the smaller the bottle is, the wine matures faster. And why? That's because the surface between the wine and the cork is bigger in percentage the smaller the bottle is. So if we have a 3, 4, 12, 15 liter bottles, that little surface and that little becomes smaller, which makes it's like a pause or a slow motion to the development. And then we have also that certain bottles, I would say Magnum and Jeroboams are the perfect size because the relation between that little gap and the wine is in perfect harmony. That's when the real magic happens. So for me, Magnums and Jeroboams are really interesting bottle sizes for perfect maturation.
So what are the best vintages in champagne?
That's really interesting also. When we look, for the last, say, 120, 115 years, if we look at really top vintages, if we have a system from 1 star to 5, I would say that we have one vintage in every decade. That's how rare it is, where everything is, the sun and the moons, everything is in the perfect condition to give, the absolutely best fruit to be working with. So I would say if we go from now and a little bit backwards, we start to see a little bit of the 2015s, really interesting vintage. 12, of course, 8. When I will write my champagne memoirs, 8 will be the top 3, without a shadow of a doubt. Then we have 02, also beautiful, rich. We have the 96 for its acidity. We have 88 and 90, or actually 88, 89 and 90, which is called the Holy Trinity. We only had 2 times in the history when we started in the beginning of the 1900s that we saw 3 vintages after each other really good. So 88, 89 and 90. I love the 85s, and 85s is also beautiful drinking now. Then we go back to 76, no more in the 70s, 66, 64, I think is beautiful. In the 50s, maybe 53s. Then we have 47, 48, 49. Again, a holy trinity, which is absolutely perfect. In the 30s, not so much because we have a lot of different trouble in the world because of the World War and other things. We have 28, 21, 14 and 11. So that's how very rare it is. But I would say it's interesting to see that we have so many great vintages produced in a very recent time. So 15, 12, 8 and 2, focus on those. And I think that we have more to come.
Björn, can all the vintages be aged?
Now I'm going to sound like a politician. Really boring. Yes and no. And why is that? Well, the differences between the vintages are very, very all over the place. Take, for instance, a very weak, I used to say weak instead of a bad vintage, like 2001. It's supposed to mature fast. Not many producers declared it, but the ones that did it were very happy at that point. So it's a champagne for drinking between, let's say, 5 and 8 to 10 years. And if we take the next vintage, the 2002, which was a brilliant example of a super concentrated vintage because of the maturity levels, the acidity levels, that is what you need for a wine to, be stored for a very, very long time. As I said, I think that champagne is maybe one of the wines that can be matured the longest, even longer than top Bordeaux sometimes. You can compare it to really premium Burgundy because of the concentration and the level of acidity sometimes. And the third part is personal preference. If I would serve a certain champagne, youthful, fresh, most people will like it. Some people will say, that's hard, harsh, not so elegant. I wouldn't like to have, a little bit more of the smooth character. And then I bring out a 30 to 35-year-old champagne. And some people will say, ooh, that's really, too much of the mushroomy. Where is the youthfulness? So it really depends on your personal preference when it comes to really mature wines also. So yeah, a lot of answers to your question there.